crazy Dutch bastard.
Oh, baby, we're back. Some people have even guessed the opening lines as well. We may never know the true answer, but I do see a lot of people commenting Bitcoin is destined, is definitely, must, absolutely, without any, without any other options, it must go down to 50,000 bucks. Actually, let me turn on the lights right now. I didn't realize it's so damn dark, but I was trying to save my eyes, but it's too fucking dark. So just one moment. Okay, let there be light. Let there be light. Oh shit, that really does make a difference. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, you and every fun fucking else. I swear to God, man, I've seen so many fucking calls for 50,000 bucks today, even from the ultra perma bulls. Look, I ain't saying that that's impossible. Anything's possible, obviously. Anything is possible, but it might just be low probability. But ultimately, you know, we've been looking for this move to occur for Bitcoin on this correction anywhere between 70 to 60,000 bucks. And honestly, it's right there. And I don't really have any real reason to change my analysis until proven otherwise. But just going down the old list here, I mean, it seems like everyone and their fucking mother is talking about 50,000 bucks. Even the perma bulls. Bitcoin just got liquidated. Crypto crashing to this. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're sorry. Bitcoin a date with destiny. It's like as if it's, as if it must happen. Bitcoin, the bottom is not in. Bitcoin crashes. Bitcoin hodlers are getting tested. Bitcoin is crashing. Crypto isn't. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. All of the usual suspects saying the same goddamn thing. Bitcoin in free fall. There you fucking go, man. Even it's like even the fucking perma bulls right now are bearish. Again, I think this mid to low $60,000 territory is good long-term value. Can Bitcoin wick below? Sure, but I do think that if you get a wick below 60,000 bucks, it's probably going to be short-lived. I don't think that these things are going to have any major long-term behavior below 60, especially on a higher term time frame closing basis. We could get an intramonth low, an intramonth wick low, in the 50s for sure. But if Bitcoin closed back above 60,000 bucks, that's exactly what I'm looking for to call a macro low here. I think just another sort of way of looking at this, something that I haven't brought up before because obviously I've been repeating myself so much over the past 3-4 weeks now with areas of interest for long-term value on this move to the downside. One thing that I haven't mentioned but is relevant here is the monthly MACD, or sorry, not the monthly MACD, although it can be relevant obviously, but the monthly Bollinger Bands right here, the Bollinger Bands are starting to converge on each other, and more importantly, Bitcoin's getting very, 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 very close to that bottom band, which is currently more or less at the lows, 60,000 bucks and change. Now, anytime Bitcoin has tested the bottom end of the Bollinger Bands, it is generally marked more or less the end of that cycle low. Yes, things can go a little bit lower, as you see in this case over here. You might call that a black swan from the FTX collapse, but still, long-term value-minded. These are got to put your fucking risk somewhere, right? Got to put your risk fucking somewhere. This one over here converges a bit and then you get your lows in. This one over here converges a bit, then you get your lows in. Same thing over here, converges a bit and then you get your lows in. So ultimately, can Bitcoin test it? Sure. But is Bitcoin going to close below it and start to really trend below it? I think worst case scenario again is we get a quick wick down to like 53,000 bucks and bounce back up rather quickly, rather abruptly back above 60,000 bucks. If I see something like that, I'm gonna be buying a shit ton more. At that point, I actually might start to put a little bit of leverage on for Bitcoin. But for right now, I have done a bit of buying at as I have said and as I have strategized throughout this whole move. Still think that it could come down a little bit more here, but we are starting to witness a bit of extremes holding up. We can see over here on the HPDR that when we go down to the daily time frame, Bitcoin's in kind of no man's land right now, or I should say not no man's land, but crazy land. Already it's at the 88.2% of historic returns range lows, which, you just don't see these areas tested that often. In fact, the last time that you even saw this area tested was back in February. And before that, you had to scroll back another actually, no, that was just a couple months ago, in November. But even then, there's twice in the past year that we saw that specific level tested, and we're once again at it. So, we're once again getting very, very close to it. So, it's like, do I really think it's going to crash down below here? It's just unlikely, statistically speaking, unlikely historically speaking, at least in the short term. What I think is most likely to happen, and what is probably going to be most problematic, I fucking hate that term, but what's going to be most painful for the general market participant is something that I think is incredibly likely to happen, which would also look pretty damn good to me, is, Bitcoin maybe spikes this low, maybe it bottoms out kind of where it's at right now, but something like this, and goes sideways for a while. If I see it go sideways for, most of summer, if we get into like August and Bitcoin's still around this region right here, that to me is just going to look like it's double bottoming and looking like it wants to put in another rally. I don't think that Bitcoin's going to crash through here. And if it does, well, then fuck it, man. I'll take the loss and move on to the next one. That's what it's all about, man. Strategies over everything else, probabilities over everything else. And in this case, it's like, how often do I get a chance to, buy at these levels? Not very often. Even on the monthly HPDR, I should acknowledge, it's getting down close to that 61.8 level. That is also a hair above 60,000 bucks. And realistically, long-term for Bitcoin, we really haven't seen this area tested too much. This is CME, so it doesn't have like a full set of history. If we go over here to spot price action, I imagine that's going to be a bit different. I guess in the last cycle, it did get tested quite nastily. So, hey, maybe I might be in for a lot of pain right there, because I would be at current like low 30s. Possible, I guess. But again, I got to see a lot of other things happen first before I really start to lean into that as just like the most likely thing to happen here. Again, I think that this is a very, very crowded trade right now. For the long term, just being super bearish right here. But in the short term, it's probably still, if I have to guess, positive funding rates. So let's go check it on Central Command. see what they're doing over here and see if these have changed at all yet. Nope, still very positive. So risk remains to the downside. And of course, we know that because just following the Rev and Ribbons, which is my chart right here, this one continues to operate below the mid band. This was obviously getting to be a very, very exaggerated move, but even the Rev and Ribbon mid band, or the Rev and Ribbons, holy shit, man, my brain is not operating properly today. I've had like a week straight of bad sleep. I think it's because the seasons are changing and it's starting to like get, really summery here. And then also my fucking dog, my beautiful little Rosie, my little Rosie Posey, my little Rosie Poo, woke up at 1 a.m. to go take a bunch of shits. Then she woke up at 4 a.m. to take even more shits. I'm kind of worried about her, man. Hopefully, I think she might have eaten something that she shouldn't be eating recently. Anyways, yeah, even over here on the Rev and Ribbons, we can see that Bitcoin is approaching even the lowest of the bands, which again, these things just don't happen that often. They happen on the most aggressive of dumps. The last time we saw it was February of this year. Before that, we'd have to scroll back to, shit, man, where was the last time we saw the lowest of the blow bands get hit? Must be back in 2022. Let's see if we can find it. Yep, that would be the lows of 2022 right here. Yeah, actually super interesting. Yeah, so that'd be the lows of 2022. Or sorry, no. That was the macro low of the summer correction in August 2023. Did hit those levels. And then I imagine we got to have it. Yeah, there was at the end of 2022 bear market as well. There was that level hit. And probably also on that first, there was that first level hit on the, I think this was the Luna 3AC blow up right here. Something like that. Anyways, it does get hit, just not that often. So again, it's like, I don't want to be getting super, super, super ultra bearish here. Yes, I think that price can come down more. I have to be biased again in the short term / medium term for more downside as long as Bitcoin is below the Rev and Ribbons midband. As long as it's below, even the the top band of the lower bands, which is, God, man, that's all the way at $70,000. Look, Bitcoin ain't going back above $70,000 anytime soon, in my opinion. Best case scenario here is that it grinds out these lows, spends like a month or two going sideways. It's going to get ultra fucking boring, and then maybe end of summer / Q4 it tries to move. Then again, if traditional marks top, then I think we might be in for some real pain. But anyways, un momento, just one moment as I take a sip of this water. Zaria says 12-hour and daily RSI says it all for Bitcoin. I haven't checked on those personally today, but let's go check them out. It's getting very, very low, but just because the RSI is very low does not mean that it's, it must go up, bro. The RSI is below 30. And I read on Investopedia that it means it's oversold. And if it's oversold, then guess what, bro? Can't be going any lower. So I'm going to buy right now on leverage. And yeah, I can always go lower. And shit, getting down in these regions, you can get that snapback trade. But what we really want to see is we want to see divergence. We want to see bullish divergence. And it's not going to happen here. Maybe on the weekly, on the weekly you will have bullish divergence on this move to the downside, but it still would imply that we still see a little more downside. Is Bitcoin going to kind of have a bounce temp just by getting around this 20 read that again we just do not see it hit that often in Bitcoin's history. Last time we saw it was again back in the February dump. Before that, we saw it back in August of 2023, and then a couple of basing times in June of 2022 as well as January of 2022. Again, long term, actually these did provide the impetus for some nice bounces right here and right here respectively in that 2022 saga, and then obviously the 2023 summer low right here. But I'd still give it some time, man. It's just, I really think it's going to get boring here. And that would be a good thing for Bitcoin, for it potentially bottoming within these regions. I was certainly surprised to see Bitcoin not bouncing at that 618 Fibonacci retracement. Probably not a good sign, honestly. Probably not a good sign. Have to get rid of that. No bounces at the 50% retracement or the 618 level. Like that is very rare to see something like that. The 382 level did hold up for a bit of a bounce. However, in contrast, but yeah, rare stuff happening right there. Again, when everything that I look at right here tells me still don't get super, 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 super bearish. I'm looking for lows around the previous lows. In this case, the daily time frame, as you can see, is going to see momentum probably start to turn up relatively soon. It's at the lowest levels that we've seen since, again, November of last year. And these are areas where, yes, it is indicative of a very, very strong downside momentum, absolutely. But you're going to start to have the potential to create divergences because of the aggressiveness of this move to the downside. It's hard to keep up that momentum over time. So again, it's a process. It's going to take some time, but But, you know, we are still seeing kind of everything that we were looking for come into plan. So I don't really have any reason to change things right now. Of course, when everything's come down to the bottom side of the range, you know, it gets really scary. And of course, you know, I'm always notorious for changing my opinion around those. Like, oh, it's definitely going to break down now. But at the end of the day, man, I do want to stick with my guns on this one. And, you know, it just is what it is. As far as the weekly goes, this one a little bit more concerning, I will say. You know, there's certainly momentum to be had to the downside there. But I think that is the odd man out as far as the higher term timeframes. When we go to the monthly, you can see we've already seen the full retrace pretty much of the monthly stochastic oscillator, and it is back around the previous regions where we've seen macro cycle lows. So, you know, or at least around macro cycle lows, you know, a few percent off or literally on the low. You know, so it's just, to me, I'm not getting the signals that I want to be looking for like a major downside continuation move here. But do I think that we see more downside overall? Yeah, for sure. Just, you know, getting significantly new lows on a closing basis still seems a little bit less likely to me. Other than that, traditional markets obviously not helping out the overall equation. Not that necessarily Bitcoin has been correlated with them recently. It's not necessarily that it even has a negative correlation, but it is not correlated at all, it seems like, and for the first time ever. But do need to call out this over here on SPY futures. We do see regular bearish divergence developing now. There will be just 2 drives off of the last couple highs. That should be good enough to get this thing back down around about $7,500. Again, my opinion on this channel is not changing on traditional markets. I think all pullbacks going into the end of this year are basically for buying. You know, if you want to be aggressive, yes, we're working our way to probably towards a major top. But do I think it's happened just yet? No. So if this thing comes back down anywhere between 7,450 to 7,500, I think that's another opportunity for a lot of these stocks. I know it looks crazy right now, but at the end of the day, you know, we've been following this system for a long time now, and I like it's been working, so I don't really have a reason to change it around. I see a lot of stocks getting absolutely fucking boo caked. I'm definitely gonna be taking a couple of losses on some of the flyers that I took positions on over the past few weeks. Other ones actually still operating pretty fucking well. So it's a mixed market right now. Anyways, yes, okay, so we got that, and we got that. Nice. All right, let's get into some actual super chats of the day, the old super chats. Let me put it back on Bitcoins over here. And yeah, I want this chart first because I like to reference that one the most. All right, cool. Damn, Krown calling out my strat. What is your strat or your start? Your strat? I don't know. one moment. There was a 60 million Bitcoin liquidation last night, and you think you got problems. I mean, the thing is like, when people do have positions like that they let go to liquidation, I have to imagine they are managing big amounts of money. And if they're managing big amounts of money, they're probably using it as a hedge of some sort. They could have what's it called? They could have if they were long, it might be against like a long put position, for example, and then they just let that side expire, or get liquidated while the put position prints probably over. It at least protects them a little bit. But yeah, man, something like that. You know, it is hard to say. Anyways, okay, cool. All right, we got someone who, Jesus Christ, man, we got a crazy person, crew 21. There's always someone like this, man. There's always someone like this. Yet the tools continue to work. It's a crazy idea, I know, but the uninitiated will not learn until they go through it once. And sometimes they have to go through it multiple times. Depends like their intelligence level. If it's high, then only once. If it's not so high, many times, unfortunately. And look, we all go through it at least once, but you should just let it just be once. Anyways, we'll start off with Arib. He's looking at gold on pretty much every time frame that matters, as always. Look, I'm still bearish on this, man. I still think that this one's got a lot lower to go. 4,200, nothing's changed here. It's moving slow like molasses. But as we went over on Monday and last week, the daily 200 simple at 4,400, it's going to take a little bit of time to chew its way through there. I think it's pretty mature now to the point where it's probably going to break this week or next week. But maybe one more short-term bounce attempt today if that does occur. Ultimately, this thing is bearish, especially as long as you're below the 4,600 price action pivot right here. As long as you're below there, just follow the yellow brick trend. Even above there, it's still bearish overall, but I would be expecting a rally back up to 4,650 to 4,700. But until then, man, I still think that you're on the right side of this trade. I think that this is a winning trade. I mean, already it's a big winning trade for you, obviously, but I think that it probably wins a little bit more. The monthly time frame is what I really be focusing on right here, man. This is the big one. This is the big fucking kahuna, because ultimately this one wants to retest that yellow 21 EMA and play out all the divergences that it's been putting in on, the weekly and above. And these things, are slowly but surely getting played out. The quarterly, I think, is the biggest tell. We get the closure at the end of this month for the quarterly. And do I think that things are going to stop at 4,100 or 4,200? No, they're probably going to bounce, probably going to be a nice big bounce. Sure, that's great, that's awesome. But ultimately, I do expect this one to come down significantly more with like a mid-3 handle. That's where I start to get interested in buying a little bit of this thing. All right, cool. What else we got over here? We have Lutfi Meridova. She's looking at XPL. Okay, symbol X. Another shitcoin. Is she looking to short? Is this? No, she's long actually. You're long from 86. Did we see the low for now? So it's a little bit too new of a chart for me. Oh, hold on. Let me go. There's got to be a longer. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, we have some history here, so that is good. Do I think that the low is in on this thing? Only if it were to close above about. I don't like betting on a reversal here. I really don't. There's not a higher low in place, so it's unlikely to have any sort of real move to the upside. What I'm trying to say is whatever move you get here is likely to fail. The question is, does it fail right here? Because it is at a major moving average, or does it get a real leg up towards 12 and a half cents? That I don't know. If you see this one close above, let's call it about 9.9 cent today. If you see it close above there, then yes, I do think you will actually have a pretty sizable move towards, what was it, like 12 and a half cents. Until then, I'd probably be treating this one as likely to top out right here. Would I take a position in this thing? No, but yeah, long term, I'm not going to call it a reversal on this thing. It's fucking garbage. And when the market's garbage as well, I mean, these things just, has held in actually decently sideways there, but, I feel like it's just being in a holding pattern ready for the real dump. So it's a risky one. It's a flyer for sure. Do I think that we've seen the low? If you're on a very low term time frame, yes. If you're on a higher term time frame like a daily, I would say it's certainly unconclusive right now, and I would be leaning towards no just because you don't have a higher low first, and any potential reversal that begins without having a higher low first is like less than 10% probability it's going to succeed as a real reversal. That's just conjecture, or sorry, not conjecture, but anecdotal. Anyways, Arib is back. He's looking at silver now. Same thing, of course. I know where this one's going as well. This one a little bit more obviously bearish than gold, to be fair. This one, still coming down to 62, 63 bucks, but similar to gold, I don't think it's going to stop there, man. Ultimately, at some point, you do get down to that yellow 21 EMA on the monthly, and that's going to currently be at 57 bucks. It's going to rise up next month, maybe like 58, 59, but yeah, I still think that you're playing out a corrective move down there. And the quarterly, similar to gold, is very problematic here too. You got bearish divergence developing between the highs of 2011 and the highs right here. And you just have one massive long-legged doji dildo for the last, for Q1, which just looks fucking atrocious. So I think that this thing is still top for a very, very long time now. Don't like these charts, but for any sort of like major reversals in the short term, medium term. This one, I think more so in the next week or two, you do see down to about 67.5 or so. Until then, very bearish as long as you hold below 79 bucks. Not much more to add on to it other than that, man. Cool. All right, sweet. Fuck yeah, man. Hitting chest and tries. Nice, man. Hell yeah. Good old chest and try day. I remember when I used to do the old, what is it called? The bodybuilding split. Blast some muscle groups. Can't do it anymore, man. I get tired. Like I fuck myself up. Like if I have a real hard workout, especially doing hard cardio, I'm not okay to do intense physical activity the next day. It sucks, man. It fucking sucks. Need to get on that TRT and up the dose, baby. But unfortunately, still have to wait a little bit. Anyways, cool. All right, Great by Hype is here. He says, "Sup, Krown, what's up, man?" SKYY. Okay, SKYY. Cloud computing ETF. Interesting. Is it a narrative? I don't know. Is the weekly having a short-term top? Yes, but I would not say that this one's having a long-term top. I do actually like this for continuation into summer, but in the short term, it is corrective, obviously. And I do think you'll experience another retest of that red 5 EMA. Just a nice little reconnect right there. Daily time frame, not super problematic. I think this is just ultimately a retest of that previous high. But yeah, that does imply some downside and some decent downside, maybe between about 138 to 140-ish region on this downside move. And if things get really bad, 125 to 127.5 is where I'd be looking towards. But again, long term, is this thing, probably good? Yeah, actually the quarterly, really fucking good here. I think this thing's gonna make new highs in summer. You got hidden bullish divergence coming off of this low as well. So assuming it closes anywhere above 140-ish by end of this month, given an intra-month correction, I think you're set up for new all-time-highs in the summer. This one should continue. Anyways, we got Great White Hype again. He's looking at symbol bug, my bug futures, cybersecurity. Oh yeah, this is another narrative coming up. Interesting one, man. Funnily enough, I was kind of looking at something similar to this. I would like to get it on a pullback as well. I do think similar to the last chart, you're going to see a pullback here, at least back down to like 34 and a half. And if things get really bad, maybe like 31 and a half, $32. But similar to the last one, looking at the quarterly, it's not as much history, but I like the higher low, and you are very likely going to finish out this quarter on a bullish engulfing dildo. I'm not bearish on that. I'm just looking for higher lows on the daily and then try again to the upside if that happens. It's not bad for the long term, but in the short term, yeah, you do have some real downside here. I mean, 10% move is in my opinion quite likely to the downside in the short term. For an intra-month correction here. But again, that likely leads towards new highs in the summer, man. Anyways, Red Pill Closet says, GM Krown, what's up, man? KRKNF. What is this one? I remember it's like an OTC bullshit stock, but what is it? Kraken. Oh, it's robotics. It's not Kraken. It's a Kraken robotics company. Not as obvious to me as the last few charts. I do really like this long-term price action. That's great. Went from 20 cents all the way up to $8. Amazing. Only in OTC land and shitcoin land you see that. Nope. Now you see it in church marks too. Short term, do I think it corrects again towards $4.50, or do I think it takes off from here? That I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on that. Yeah, I actually don't. I think that this chart is a little bit closer to topping off, but in the short term, it probably tries a rally. No, then again, I go down to a daily. Short term, it's going to come back down, and probably that is the high of the rally. Yeah, okay. Yeah, if the daily plays out, which I think it is very likely to, you're going to come back down to $5 first. That's going to start to wreck your weekly and your monthly at that point. I think you might be in for a much greater correction overall. Look, longer term, I do think this one comes down to like $4 or so. And that's a big move from where you're at right now, like a really big move, percentage wise. Short term, very, very likely to come down, like I said. And then if you take out that low from May, then yeah, I think $4 is your next major area of interest, and probably tries for a higher low there. I mean, you do have just a couple drives of bearish divergence here on the monthly RSI. So yeah, if I had to bet on this thing, I think you're coming down to $4 during summer. No summer rallies, and short term also downside as well, man. Freddie M says, RDW, good entry now under $19 or down from here. It always depends on what your strategy is, what you're looking to do, man. Again, I can't answer these questions for you. Do I think it comes down a little bit lower? Little bit lower, but to me, this would be acceptable right here if I want to play a position. Keep in mind, it could come down to about $15.5, $16, for like a max worst case scenario if it ends up being bullish. But below $15.5, I would flip around and I'd be bearish, and I'd say, just got this one wrong. I'll take the loss, because this is one that. Actually, no, I did. No, I did take a position in this one. Yes, I do have a position in this one, but I do expect a little bit more down. And I personally would like to get some at about $16.5. So hopefully it does come down around there. That is where I'm looking for a bounce. As long as it's above 15.5, I'm still game for holding this thing. Again, here's your quarterly. Not terrible coming into the end of this month, but of course, short term, yeah, downside, man. Want some more downside here. I think at least in the short term, you get down to like 17.25. So yeah. Anyways, one moment. Crypto Omega says, I bet you he's in the toilet doing his pre-preparation TA. Yes, if by pre-preparation TA you mean dumping all over my fucking toilet, that would be correct, sir. That is correct. Freddie says, RCAT, is this the pullback? I mean, everything else pulling back. Why wouldn't this one? Yeah, it is pulling back right here. And is this a pullback? It is a pullback. Is it the pullback that you should be waiting for? I think you're coming down lower to $12.5 at least. I personally have given up on this one. I did capitulate last month, for better or worse, honestly. I mean, this thing could still be okay. But yeah, I do think you come down a little bit more. If it is going to be bullish, expect to bounce at about $12.5. If it fails $12.5 and you start to see, weeklies closing below 12.5, I think that this one will come down, but it'll actually reverse, in a big way. But for right now, it still holds a bullish structure, obviously. Short term, yeah, I do think it's coming down more, but I would be looking for a bounce around that region. But yeah, I'm fully out of this one now. I don't own anymore. So full disclosure. Anyways, I'm half retarded. Me as well. ZEC says, what the move? When all-time high? What the move? I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a few days. I know a lot of people in the Discord are shorting it, but I don't think it's the one that you want to short here. It's been one of the stronger cryptos. In fact, among the strongest cryptos in recent times. I don't have a problem with this chart, man. I don't own any of it. I probably should own some just to own some. But again, here's our quarterly. This is not a bad quarterly. This is a quarterly that wants to go higher. This is a quarterly that wants to go to $1,000, like, I don't know, in 6 months to a year from now. But in the short term, has it found its lows yet? Might come back down and base around $500 low. But, that's the low that we were looking at on this, on this pullback. So it's back down around there. I don't have any major issues with that, man. Might even already put in the low, to be fair. But, where's the invalidation? If you want to play a position here, it's going to be about $490, $500, depending upon your time frame. I think if you're bullish here, you probably go sideways and up. And worst case scenarios, you come down to like 490 to 500. So 490, I mean, you definitely got some risk there. It's $100 away from current price action. Is that risk acceptable for you or not? I don't fucking know. But that would be the setup. And the higher term timeframes here, again, this is an infinitely better chart than Bitcoin in the short term, on the quarterly at least. I mean, compare this chart with Bitcoin, right? And again, I say this as someone who doesn't own any ZEC, who generally likes Bitcoin, but gotta call a spade a spade. Bitcoin wants to make a nice little test towards that yellow 21 EMA here. It seems almost like a foregone conclusion after 3 drives of bearish divergence on the quarterly RSI. So, yeah. Well, I guess it already kind of tested it last quarter, but yeah, probably in for another test, to be fair. Should bounce again as well, though. And if it doesn't, oh man, it's going to be painful. It's going to be very painful. Anyways, cool. All right, sweet. Let's see. Lambo says IWM versus SPX. Okay, so you want to look for, so you're looking for which one's the better do on your long-term IRA. Actually, that's really, really useful, background information. Certainly SPY. Certainly SPY on this one. Without a fucking doubt. There is potential for a sort of relatively shorter term move for IWM to gain over SPY. Because you do kind of have a corrective setup here. But I think at best, best case scenario, you're going to get up to this red circle right here. But either which way, whether it's topping out right now or whether it gets up to that red circle and then tops out, SPY is the one to do. So, look, if you have to make decisions right now, if you're long-term, obviously SPY is going to be the better one to do. Fucking duh. But if you're more interested in the short term, there is potential for IWM to outperform SPY with that corrective move up here. And that would be about a 6 to 7% move. Is that worth it or not? I don't know. Only you can answer that question, but long-term, the trend is your friend, and this thing is, it's down and down only. When I look at the quarterly, I think it's a little bit likely to play with that upside moves first. So maybe in the short term, it is more likely to, IWM is more likely to make that move in the short term, but still long-term, I would want to build a bigger position in SPY relative to IWM. I mean, that's really the way to do it. You don't have to choose one over the other, obviously, for very, very long-term holds. But, if I was playing these and I want both of them, I would do, 60% SPY, 40%, if we're just talking about the allocations to these two, it'd be like 70% SPY, 30% IWM. Not for the whole portfolio, but just for, relative to those two. Yeah, cool. All right. Fad1 says, hey, Krown, downside targets on Solana, please. 0. Kidding. I mean, it is possible, obviously, but maybe not the most reasonable target. Yeah, pretty ugly here. A little bit, actually a lot worse than Bitcoin already, as it is pretty much at those previous lows. This one does look to me like it wants to make new lows. I do think that you will get down to about $60 before it's all said and done. But there is a pretty obvious invalidation here to actually get really bullish on Solana. Look, I'm just laying this out as sort of like a setup, but it's very far away from being validated. And personally, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But hey, the second that Solana reclaims that $99 higher, if you just want to round up to $100, make it nice and easy, that would be considered extremely good for this thing. That is your last lower trending high. That would confirm a reversal to me. Now, again, it's obviously going the other way right now, and I do think it's going to go more the other way as well. But tentatively, $55 to $60 kind of where I'd be looking towards. Does it stop there for forever? No, but it should have a short-term stop there. Yeah, long-term, do not like this chart. Yeah, I really don't like this chart, man. Wow, that is fucking ugly. Fucking ugly. Cool. All right, sweet. Let's see what else we got. We got some more Japanese characters here. Hell yeah, man. We love the Japanese. Devald says, hello, sir. Can you look at INTC? Yeah, Intel. I still own a lot of this one. I did sell some at 120, but that was just because it was a long-term target and, have to take action around those regions. Happened a lot sooner than what I was originally expecting, but hey, sometimes things are good. I really like this one as a narrative play. Look, whether you hate or love Trump, there is one just pure fact is that he has made it very easy for the investor class to pick winners because he's telling you which sectors are going to win. And in this case, like literally which stock is going to win. Is it right or is it wrong? That's a question, for you, I guess. I'm not going to make a fucking comment on that. But this is one of his winners. Anyways, this thing did hit a major target, like I said. So I do expect this consolidation to go on for a little bit longer. I think worst case scenario to the downside, you do see another stab towards, about $100. But ultimately, I am looking for it to hold above there. And I'm looking for it to give another try to the upside, probably in late summer. Not anytime soon, but in late summer perhaps would make a lot of sense. For right now, I do expect this one to correct for a while and probably spend the next month or two correcting, perhaps as far down to like $95, $100. That's where I'm looking for on a higher low. It's got to work off these extreme conditions over here on weekly BBWP, and the monthly is probably, the monthly is way up there as well. So I think you probably got a month, 2 months of sideways, then it tries another move. That's kind of what I'd be looking at right here, man. Cool. All right. And you are looking to sell 626 calls at 122. That reminds me, I've been forgetting to talk about my options positions, mostly because they're just not interesting. Like, they keep on. Look, when I say this is going to sound like I'm bragging, but they just keep on fucking winning. What I want is I want to show you how you can actually win with options just despite being wrong on directions. And I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet, because that's the reason why I truly love options. Anyways, your question is specifically, you want to sell the 626 calls at 122. I like the idea of selling calls. It is very high volatility in the weekly and the monthly. I do think you're going to have to live through a bit of a rally here. So I think that you will actually get tested around your price. I don't like that strike particularly to sell. And I'll tell you why. It's because, I actually just mixed up two of these comments. Devald asked about Intel, and then Supa Mars asked about the short call position. I don't like that particular strike. If I want to short this thing, I would choose an out of the money strike that is above the current high. So in this case, your current high is 132 3/4. I'd short like the 135 strike calls if I really want to do that. And this is another position where I'd actually really like that, simply because if you do reclaim that previous high, I'm happy with buying the underlying, or more of the underlying in this case. Because I just want to own it. So, if you're short that call and then you buy the underlying when it breaks that previous high, you're going to make money on the difference between that strike call, that 135 strike call, and the previous high. And then you also just lock in whatever you sold the premium for. So I like that idea a lot better. Now I'm just making up ideas for you, but these are my preferences, obviously. Shorting the 122 strike call, I think is not a good do here. That's too close to current price action. You don't really give yourself that much room to be wrong, and more importantly, 122 doesn't mean anything here. At the very least, play around this previous high from late May at about 127 or so. In that case, you could short like the 130, 131 strike calls. But doing it right here, not the, I think you're going to get a better price on those. And with volatility this high, those prices will go up a decent amount. Anyways, I should show my own options positions. I only have one going on right now. It's the same one that I spoke about. We started this one like 3 or 4 weeks ago now. It's a short call spread, it's not even a call spread. And my face is my face fucking it up here. Let me just go to a different screen. Let's see. Does this work? No, same shit. Anyways, can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Okay, so I'm short the June 26 strike as well, but it's the $83,000. It's the $83,000 call strike here. Let me bring it up like this. Oh, motherfucker! This TradingView, your system sucks. Like, fuck you. Okay, just fuck you. You bastards. You fucking bastards. Figure it out. Anyways, yeah. Look, do I think Bitcoin's going back above $83,000 by end of month here? Probably not. So this is going to be it's already in maximum profit. These calls are already trading for like 50, 60 bucks. So I'll probably just buy them back soon enough to free up that equity. But yeah, It's kind of a boring position now. It's like, I mean, it's good, you know, it's making money, but at the same time, it's like, I want some action, man. I want some fucking action. Anyways, 1236N says MVT has corrected and now back at $33 level of interest. You think we break out to next level at 43? Let's check it out. I believe that was our corrective target from last video. Interesting one here. See, daily. It might correct a little bit more towards like 28.5 bucks, but yeah, not terrible right there. I do like this big gap up today. Yeah, I'd honestly be bullish from here. You got 1, 2, 3 drives of hidden bullish evidence on this higher low. You just opened up around that previous high with the weekly also looking to engulf potentially as well. In fact, this morning for a brief moment, it did. I think that you probably end up finishing this week above that high. And yeah, the rally does continue on. Again, this is a very aggressive rally here. I don't think that you have that much more in terms of time to go up. Maybe like another couple months, at best. But yeah, I wouldn't be calling a top here, and I would be bullish here. I think that there's, a better setup to the upside than the downside at the current moment. I'd only get bearish on this thing if you start to really come back down below about $27 even and close it daily below there. At that point, this would start to look like a real rejection. But until then, the trend is your friend, and the signals are still giving upside, more respect than downside at the current moment. So yeah. Anyways, moving on from there, we have Pisa. He's looking at XRP. Of course, odds at the low are in. Well, I don't know. This one probably trades a little bit more with Bitcoin than most things, but this one, it is at our 120 target. God, is it gonna bounce off the 200 simple? Almost always you're gonna get a bounce off the 200 simple, but this is the second bounce, so this was less of a given than the first bounce. The first bounce was pretty good. That one bounced it up like a significant amount, actually. This one bounced it up, yeah, at some point like 40-45%, so pretty fucking good there. But now coming back down to this, not a sign of strength, obviously. A little bit weaker than Bitcoin overall. Personally, I think that you will officially retest the February low after maybe a short bounce here, a daily bounce. It's kind of already bounced, to be fair, at 1.25. I'd be treating this one as likely to go lower as long as you're below 1.25. Basically today's high. As long as you're below today's high, yeah, this thing does have, this thing likely does have more downside. I'd probably be looking towards like close to $1 even almost, or 105, something like that. But similar to this one as Solana, look, the second that you reclaim that 155 high from middle of May, that would be good enough for me to call a reversal here. That would actually be very, very bullish. It's far away. Don't think it's happening personally anytime soon, but yeah, very short term. Calling for a bounce here. Yeah, you've kind of already had a bounce. I need to see 125 reclaimed on a daily closing basis before I lean into this, possibly even being a major low. For right now, I think it's just a pity bounce before likely heading lower. I think weekly RSI is pretty ugly right there, as is your biweekly, and your monthly is actually, your monthly is the one that's like most concerning, and really does make me think that this thing does have lower to go. But it could very well be that it does come down to like 105, let's say, intra-month. And then if it finishes the month back above like 125, that would also look good to me for declaring a major macro low. It's very far away, but that's probably the path that it would look like if it happens. For right now, I'd still be biased towards the downside, man, as long as those conditions are met. Anyways, the Schwab, nice. I love your platform, by the way. Best traditional platform. Very nice. Very nice. Anyways, Hood, daily and weekly. Cool, man. Let's check out Hood over here. All right. We got Robinhood. Coming back down. I actually don't think that this is terrible. And I do think that this is just a reconnect with that red 5 EMA and the weekly. And I do like the higher low right here. So I think this is probably an opportunity on this thing. It might come down a little bit more towards $81.5, $82, but that's where I'll be looking at. If this thing is going to end up being bullish, I want to see it reverse from those numbers. So basically, Jesus Christ, I got too many damn lines here. Oh, those LARP lines looking pretty good, huh? Let's actually just put in the one line that really matters for right now. But basically, somewhere around here, if you start to really close below, let's call it $82 on even a daily time frame, I would say that is not good. That's not good. And this rally fails. But for right now, this looks like a reconnect to me. I really like that higher low right there. So this is the kind of reversal setups that I'd really like to lean into personally. But again, that can be absolutely invalidated again with daily closure below $82. That would be bad. Very bad. Very bad, bad. Cool. All right, we got Andrew Plus next. He's looking at daily and weekly on IBM. Okay, yeah, this is another one that I think Trump has picked. Yeah, it seems quite obvious on the chart goes vertical as soon as it gets mentioned. Amazing. Fucking great. This one pop back down, fill the gap. I would be expecting a bounce here, man. Like I said, on traditional markets, I'm not bearish. I'm just looking for a pullback on SPY. So a lot of these things, especially something like this, I just want to see higher lows. I should probably pick up something like this too. You know, could come down a little bit more, obviously, but I don't really have an issue with this thing, as you know, especially as long as you're above. And this is not very helpful right now, admittedly, but especially as long as you're above, let's just call it 290. I look at this thing as just, you know, popping back down for another higher low, and then it's going to try higher later. Sorry, did I say 290? I meant 280. Let's just call it 280. 280 makes a little bit more sense in this case. Personally, I think that it probably does just continue from here. Again, here's your quarterly. You know, that's a pretty fucking strong quarterly right now. I think that this thing's probably going to make new highs in summer as well. Again, I love being bearish on these markets, but I feel like this is one of those rare times where I'm bullish, and I feel like a lot of people are just extremely fucking bearish. So I don't know, maybe they're seeing something that I can't see, but always possible. But hey, that's what we got in markets, man. If you disagree with me, then fucking, you know, take your actions, right? Bulk Pony says, hello, sir. LMB, weekly, monthly? Sure, ma'am. LMB. Limbach. Multiple drives of bullish divergence on this current low on the weekly time frame. So I do think bounce probably does carry on a little bit more towards like $87. Do I think that this is going to go straight up from there, though? Probably not. In fact, on the monthly, yeah, you're on the monthly. So what's more relevant to you is that there is extremely likely to be at least one more correction to the downside. And when I say one more correction to the downside, somewhere around like $65 to $70. So yeah, you might see a little bit of short-term upside. It doesn't sound like that's very relevant to you. So who gives a fuck about that? Ultimately, this one wants to come back down, but I'm not bearish down around these regions. I would be looking for another bounce. So short-term, yeah, is bearish. Medium-term, kind of bearish as well. But I'd be looking for another bounce around those regions. Quarterly time frame here as well. I'm not really getting anything unique from this right now. Yeah, it's a little bit too new to really do a proper quarterly. If I'm looking at the 6 month, I do think it's probably topped actually, but again, not going off of a ton here. So I don't trust my reads on those timeframes. I feel strongest about the monthly coming back down to that base and trying another bounce, most likely. So yeah. All right, cool. Okay, great. Anyways, Neil, you can tell how confident someone is by the amount of spam they say with their target. It's like, okay, thanks for letting me know. Don't worry, man. The more people you convince on the internet, the more likely it's to happen for you. The crazy thing about trading, and the best thing about trading, is that you don't need to convince anyone of what's going to happen for it to happen and for you to make money. It's amazing. Anyways, the louder they cry, the more I buy, says Ripper Tip. Well, I think there is a lot of crying going on right now. Neil Cotton says, is 67 the low for hype or deeper retrace? Let's check it out. This has also been one of the better performers as of recent, but let's see, is it holding up? Okay, I saw one of the other good performers. I think it's symbol triple V. That one was making new highs either today or very recently on this move. So that's a really good sign. Yeah, this is a chart that I like for this one. Do I think it's going to correct more? You got 3 drives of bearish divergence right here. So you very easily could come down to 63, 64 bucks, but this is still a good chart, man. Yeah. Yeah, I would be defensive that you may very well get a deeper correction here towards the low 60s, because I do want to see some reconnects with your 5 EMA and the monthly and the weekly. Other than that, do I think it's still bullish overall? Kind of have to be. I mean, it is an uptrend, obviously, but I do think that this one does play out a bit of a correction. You got double extremes on daily BBWP plus 3 drives of bearish divergence right here. I'd be betting on a shorter term retrace towards like 64, 65, 66 bucks, somewhere in that pocket. Just don't want to see it below about 56. That's the point where I'd actually invalidate bullishness and be extremely fucking bearish. Until then, let the trend be your friend, I say. Anyways, but yeah, do I think that the current low is in? Probably not. Probably not for that one. I think most of these things that we've seen today, the current low is not in yet, is not in right now. Similar to Bitcoin, don't think that the low is in for Bitcoin just yet. It's getting close, I do think, but not quite there just yet. Anyways, Asti says, did you see URG move? I did, and that was a thing of glory. Really, really nice over here. This is one that someone brought up in this community a few weeks ago, and we immediately looked at it, and I was like, this is good. I'm buying some. And nice. I do think that this one has more high to go, but kind of similar with the theme of today is like, you know, short term's a pullback, but this is, I really like what it's doing right here. I really like what it's doing. And also I realize that it's part of the narrative as well. This is, I believe, it's something with like nuclear energy, some shit like that. Anyways, that is another one of those stated goals of the Trump administration, to kind of support, I guess, you know, because the U.S. needs it. I mean, it does make sense. Look, I think if anyone who studied like, you know, energy production and whatnot knows that nuclear energy is almost undoubtedly the future, especially as we need more and more, you know, power. So, you know, good narrative play, good setup right here. 1, 2, 3 higher lows on the weekly. You're already at previous highs. This is a setup for higher. I still think that this thing is going $3 plus. I have no reason to be bearish on this thing at all whatsoever, especially as long as you're above like 170 at this point. So yeah, it's got to respect the trend. Got to respect the trend. And I need to respect my mouth by sipping on some water. Tycoon says, I love you. I love you as well, sir. Batmanny says, Iron Weekly, personally looking for a break of all-time high. Okay. I remember this one was looking, I think it was looking okay last we looked at it. Yeah. Still pretty good there. Short term, I do think you might get a little bit more on this correction. Could easily come down to like 59, 60 bucks. I'm not saying it's absolutely going to, but it could, and that would be completely fine. I'm just bullish on this thing as long as you're above, let's call it 55 on a daily closing basis. Until then, it hasn't confirmed the reversal just yet. And this is what I'm talking about with getting a higher low first. It does not have a higher low on the weekly, but it does have a higher high above that previous swing high. Now, I think that this one will end up being the minority of that, you know, probably less than 10% of charts that do reverse without a higher low first. Oh, that rhymes. That should be a good thing. Doesn't reverse before a higher low first. Nice. Anyways, yeah, I like this one, man. I do think you, like I said, you could easily have a correction down to like mid upper 50s. Doesn't really do all that much. And the more I look at it, probably likely, you know, at least like $59, something like that. But until it really goes below about $55, I would say I still like it, man. I'm not buying it myself. I don't own any of this thing myself, you know, but here's a quarterly. If it finishes anywhere above 63.5 bucks at the end of this month, that is going to be bullish. It very likely will make new all-time highs in summer if that happens. So yeah, cool. Shady says, for your dedication and honor, sir, my fucking man, I salute you. And basically you're an OG at this point, man. You've been around since like 2020, I think. Hell yeah, man. Very glad to see OGs on this channel back around and flying around. Fuck yeah, man. Outrageous fun right now. Assie's back. She's looking at VG. Okay. Symbol VG, daily and weekly in at 12.5 bucks. There's not a ton of history on this one, so I always feel inclined to say, look, like I don't have a strong opinion on this thing. Back in at 12.5 bucks. I mean, where's your risk if you take that position? Your risk is last week's low, last Friday's low at $12. Even taking out that low, I think you need to manage risk around there, but it's not necessarily indicative that this thing would, you know, fall through the floor if it loses that number. Yeah. The area in which this thing confirms like ultra mega nasty bearishness is below about 1095 on a daily closing basis, and preferably a weekly. So until then, like I don't really have a strong opinion on this thing. I do see multiple drafts of bullish divergence come off this low. I just don't trust it though. I really don't. I'm looking for something that's obvious here and I don't see it. So it's not an easy chart for me. I don't want to be blowing smoke up your ass when I don't feel confident about something, or I just want to be transparent when I don't feel confident about something. This would be one of them. The obvious things, like I said, below 1095, very fucking bearish. Above 50, about 15 bucks, very fucking bullish. You're right in the middle of the range here. I don't think I have an edge right here. So your guess is as good as mine in the short term. Yeah, Red Pill Closet looking at INFQ. Full disclosure, I do own this one as well. Had a really nice move back up to that range high at $21. Did reject on the first pass. Again, to be expected. Of course, we always expect a rejection on the first pass. But it's really going to be about where the weekly closes this one out. If it can reclaim $20 by the weekly closure, This is going to break out. It's going to be bullish. We're going to see, you know, first you're going to see the prior all-time high, then you're going to see like 33, 35, whatever. It's going to be good. But there is an invalidation here, as always, and it is 1467. Closing below there on a daily, bad, very fucking bad. And you do have some signals of downside in the short term. You got some bearish evidence here on the daily. So I do think it will test a little bit more on the downside, but it's all about the weekly closure on this thing. That's what's going to confirm or deny its overall potentially mega bullishness. Monthly as well is going to matter a lot here too. Anywhere above, you know, $19.5, $20 by end of June, I would be extremely bullish. I see a massive super chat right there, so I'm going to get right to it. And thank you for that, man. That was very, very, very generous. Holy shit. I don't know what currency that is, but it's in red. So I think that means YouTube says it's a lot. Appreciate it, man. SDA Trading says STRC depegging looks nasty. So this is one of the Bitcoin bonds from Michael Saylor's company. Oh yeah, that looks really awful right there. But to be fair, it is just a 5% deviation for right now. It definitely looks bad, but when we do look at it on the monthly, and look, I'm speaking as someone who does not own these things. I don't like them. I used to play them. I don't anymore. I think that the whole Sailor game has gotten way too complicated, and I feel like at some point he's kind of just flying a little bit too close to the sun. That's just a personal opinion. I could be very well wrong on this. But when I look at this thing, I don't know where this fucking trend line's coming from. It's coming from the price action pivot indicator, but it's coming into fruition with the current wick low. We've seen this stuff before, to be fair. If anything, it's probably a good discount to buy this thing at, you know, because it's supposed to be pegged at around $100. But look, am I going to play that? Fuck no, man. Like I said, I don't like these Sailor products. I don't buy these Sailor products. Not because I don't like him. I like listening to him. He makes me feel really good, actually, a lot of the time. But it's just not for me, man. It's just not for me. Anyways, this thing right here, like I said, we've seen this move before. Technically, you should probably be looking for a bounce here, if anything. Where would I start to get like a little bit concerned about this? I don't think that there is, because, or at least I don't have an objective way of doing it, because this one is going to be fundamentally driven depending upon like their goals and whatever the fuck. I'll put it this way. I wouldn't put my money in this. I'll put it that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't fuck with it, man. Anyways, you're saying, do you think it can make Bitcoin go a bit lower if that doesn't get solved? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess the idea would be Sailor would have to sell Bitcoins to be able to pay the dividends here and his other, 4 or 5 fucking products. Oh my God, man. Most of them are not looking good, by the way. So yeah, that would be, you got a big seller at that point for sure. It's not gonna be good, obviously. That could be the scenario in which we get like a quick wick down to mid or low $50,000 for Bitcoin. I still don't like saying that though, just because it really feels like everyone and their fucking mother is calling for that, even like the perma bulls. But yeah, that would be the sort of backdrop where you could definitely see something like that. Quick wick down. By the end of the month, you crawl your way back up above $60,000. Yeah, something like that, man. So, as far as a hypothetical, I would certainly agree with you. Yeah, it would be absolutely problematic. That would put legitimate pressure on him to raise capital or, raise cash so he could pay out his dividends. But do I have like a personal take on it? My personal take is I just don't want any piece of that thing, man. As far as, as far as this relationship to Bitcoin, I would imagine it's not going to be good, but you already knew that, man. So I feel like I'm not really being helpful in providing any sort of feedback on that, man. Just doesn't feel good when I don't have a good take, but I just don't have a good take on that one, man. My take goes as far as I don't want no piece of these things. I operate by one major rule when it comes to long-term investing. If I can't or don't understand something after studying it for at least 5 to 10 hours, I'm just gonna ignore it. Like maybe it's gonna be super successful, but not for me, man. Not for me. Anyways, GH Trey Mezzo says CoreWeave. Cool, man. We can get CoreWeave. This one's been very popular as of recent as well. And I still like this one on a higher low. It's still overall bullish as long as you hold $100. And I do think that the short term probably does correct a little bit more, maybe back down to like 106, but that's still kind of a far cry away from $100. So as long as you're above $100 on a daily closing basis, I still look at this one as a reversal in progress with a little bit of short-term downside. Monthly, a little bit problematic though, I will say. So I might be very wrong on this one. If it does take out $100, I'd be getting ready for some real downside. And there are some good reasons to think that I will, because there is 1, 2, 3, 4 drives of bearish divergence on character RSI on the daily. So downside is very likely here. Just does it actually break $100 or not? If it does, yeah, get ready for this whole rally to get undone back down to like $80 and maybe even lower. But as long as it holds above $100, I still think that there is, or not, I still think like there quite literally is a potential of reversal here. So that's how to play that position right there. Cool. The Schwab says, could you take a look at Tesla? Thoughts on SpaceX? So, man, I've gotten so many questions about SpaceX IPO. I'll just say this as a blanket statement. When it comes to IPOs, I'm not the person to ask, man. I'm really not the person to ask when it comes to IPOs. I don't play them. I ignore them. I wait for, price to kind of unravel. At least taking many, many months, preferably around 6 to 12 months. And then if I like what's going on, then I will get into it, but I won't buy it at IPO. Not saying that it can't be good. It's just not my game, not where my edge is. I don't want to play a game where I don't feel like I have a strong edge. Tesla, same thing as before, more or less the same thing as before. I still think that this thing, if it is going to be bullish, the low at 413, which was our downside target, somewhere around 410 to 415, right there in the middle right now, is where I'd expect on the next higher low. And so it's right there right now. I would say I'd be looking at this as potentially the next higher low, and I'd only invalidate the statement if you do start to see a weekly closure below about 410. Until that happens, yeah, it doesn't look too hot right there on the weekly, to be fair. Like if I'm just looking at the weekly, I do think it's got a good chance of failing right now, but still got to stick to the system. And ultimately the monthly, as long as you're above that, 410 number, I think that this is just a reconnect, and this one tries higher later this month, actually. Not to new highs, but like, maybe back up to like 450, something like that, man. Yeah, thoughts on SpaceX IPO making an impact on Tesla stock? I don't know. I'm sure that it'll have some impact, but that's outside of my wheelhouse. I'm just looking at charts here. Funnily enough, I don't hate the Tesla chart. Actually, this probably is an opportunity, to be fair, long term. But yeah. Anyways, one moment. Okay. CC says, how did you pick that 120 region on Intel? So that was based off of a Fibonacci extension that I had plotted in from the previous macro range high to the low. Here, I'll put it, let me put that back. There we go. 120 was a 2-spot extension right there. And that's just a general target after a major pattern breakout or a major consolidation breakout. So it hit that. You're almost always going to pull back from that area on the first pass. Does it end up being in the next major high? I don't think so, man. I think that this one will go higher at some point. Rob Willich says, what's up from Wyoming? Dude, I've heard amazing things about Wyoming, especially like the Grand Tetons and what is it called? Jackson's Holes. Been watching since 2019. Fuck yeah, man. I love this, man. Palantir on the daily and weekly. I have a put credit spread that is near adjustment or reset. When you say credit spread, I'm guessing that you meant that you sold the put spread. It'd be more helpful to know like, which strikes you did this on and your expiration and what you paid or what you got paid for it. But as far as just looking at this chart, yeah, tried the breakout earlier this week, failed the breakout. Happens, obviously. Kind of the same thing on this one as a few of the other ones. It's like, yeah, you failed at the 200 simple here, but I still like this range overall. As long as it holds within this range, the bias is kind of on a bullish breakout, and you are back in the middle of that range. So this actually might try for a low right where it's at. Yeah, you're on the 618 fib, you're bouncing off the 21 EMA on the daily. I think it's very possible it does try to bounce from here. That also does offer up a very easy invalidation. So this is actually kind of a setup that I like because I wouldn't have to risk that much money to figure out if I'm gonna be right or wrong. If this thing even just closes below 140 on a daily, I'm taking the loss and I'm looking down, like looking for this one to go more down. And I guess I'd also look down as well, just, it would wreck my life. Yes. But yeah, when I look at the higher term temperatures, I think that this is actually going to be an opportunity. The question is, does it bottom out here? Does it bottom out lower at like 120? So yeah, if it loses 140, I'm looking about $20 lower. That's what I'd be looking for. What about quarterly here? Quarterly still kind of weird to me. Yeah, Bi-weekly, I think, is a little more confidence inducing, but really needs to pop back up by Friday, I would say. This is something that I want to see again on Friday. I don't think that we have much edge right now, but I do think you get a short-term bounce here. See how high that bounce goes back up. Above 140 keeps open short-term bullish hopium. Anyways, D Cowboys says, hello from Dallas, Fort Worth. Fuck yeah, man. Dude, I just realized like how absolutely massive Texas is. It takes like fucking, what, like 10 hours to drive side to side of Texas? Something like that. It's crazy. Gigantic. Anyways, CIBR, whatever this thing is, it's, cybersecurity. Yeah. This is a narrative that's popping up right now. I do think you are putting in a short-term top here. You already see extremes on weekly BBWP, a little bit of a shooting star dildo right now forming on the weekly. Daily time frame is actually surprisingly not having bearish divergence. So maybe you get one more new high, but I think that this thing is putting in a sort of medium-term high very soon, if not already. And you will see a pop back down to like $80, $85. But again, that's just another higher low. I think a lot of these things are setting up for higher lows on pullbacks. And when I go to the bi-weekly, this is not a bearish chart. The monthly, same thing as well. Coming back down to 80-ish, like 85 especially, completely fine in my book. It's like, yeah, I think you're probably going to make new highs in summer. Maybe not much further than that, but I don't think it's topped out yet, man. I'll put it that way. Cool. Chris Vella, but again, short term is downside. I mean, it is very likely to come down short term and medium term as well. Chris Vella is here. He's looking at T Sucky Soul. T Sucky Soul. Great name. Great name. Oops, I did Y Sucky Soul. Apparently that shitcoin doesn't exist. This one does, unfortunately. And it actually has at least a chart that has gone up recently. Look, I don't trust these things, man. You already know what I'm going to say on this, Chris. You already know what I'm going to say, man. I see a blow off top on extreme volatility on a thing that just went up how much? How many X's did it just go up here? 600%. So what, like 7X, something like that. Do I think that this thing's probably topped out here? Probably, yeah. In fact, probably has a good short opportunity. Let's see. How much more downside can we really expect? You know, I'd like a short at like 0.6 and come back down to like 0.3. I do think that you will get down around there. Should be another bounce attempt at 0.4 as well. But yeah, if I had to call it, I think that this thing's probably topping out here. But then again, you know, it's not going off of much. These shitcoins do weird things, obviously. But if I had to call it, I'm going to call a high right here. It's basically rejection of the top side of this previous range. So if it does get one more run towards, if it does get one more pop back up, I'd actually, look, I'm probably not going to edit play. You probably can't even play this. You can't even, can you even short this thing on like a real exchange, or do you have to do it on some bullshit exchange? I ain't doing that. Anyways, Zeta for Mr. MG, he's doing daily, weekly, monthly. Okay. ZETA, we've definitely looked at this one many a time before, and we should maybe go to the right exchange. Back at the top side of the range, good. And I do think that this is overall a good setup. Short term, similar to many other things we've seen today, I think it's a short term retest into a higher low, somewhere around 21, 22, or yeah, about $21 to $22. So yeah, this move right here, I don't think it's ready to break out just yet. I do think you come back down somewhere around $21, $22. I'm looking for higher lows. I think that this thing is very, very close to really putting in like a big move to the upside. But first things first, pop back down, $21-ish. That's what I'd be looking for on that higher low personally. And I'd be bullish as long as you're above $20. Below $20, I would renege on some of my statements. Anyways, Shivan says, thoughts on Oklo? I don't know. Let's look at it. That would be helpful. One moment. Definitely wouldn't be my pick. I don't like stuff like this that have already blown off its top for this cycle. If anything, I think that this thing's coming back down to $44, $45. Yeah, this is not it, as the kids say. Or what do the kids say? This one's cooked. It's cooked. Bro is cooking. God, that has got to be the most fucking cringe statement. Gen Z or whatever the fuck the gen is that says bro every other word. I was watching this interview last night. It was on Caleb Hammer, which I have the most guilty of pleasures watching. It's so good. It's such great content. But he was interviewing this guy, Togi, who's apparently like a really big influencer for like fucking 20-year-olds who are being 20-year-olds. You know, to be fair, like I was probably very similar to that at that age as well. But every fucking other word was bro. Shut the fuck up. Learn a different word, sir. Learn a different word. Use sir. Sounds way better. Anyways, cool. All right. Yeah, Oclo, don't like it. Only bullish if it pops back up above about 87. And even then, I mean, I just don't think it's going to be a big winner. This thing is, look, I'm blowing smoke talking about any fucking upside, real upside here. This thing is topped and it's down only for a long time, I do believe. Anyways, all right, cool. Dhruvan Patel says 5 with earnings. Earnings today. I really don't like playing things into earnings, but if I had to guess, you're probably going to see this thing, well, I was going to say you probably rally into earnings because overall the chart is good. Let me read the rest of the question. Is it going to moon like Dell did? Fundamentals are great in this high inflation economy. Look, I really like the higher term time frame charts. 6 month chart, 3 month chart. These are all charts that want to go higher. Short term, I don't know what's going to happen here. If anything, the short term is kind of corrective. You know, you might see like a quick drop down to like 180 or 185. I would think that that's an opportunity, to be honest. But the short term is not. It's not very clear to me, especially with earnings around the corner. I mean, literally today. So I do not play things into earnings. But I do think for the long term, this is good. I like this, especially the 6 month chart. I don't think that this one's topped out yet. I think that you got new highs, probably in summer or maybe end of year, something like that. It's not bad. Cool. All right. Luffy's back. She's looking at WLD. Okay. Looking for a swing short. All right, Luffy. You've had some pretty epic calls in the past. So let's see. Do we have another one on the table here? I don't know. Go to Binance, I guess. This is the kind of chart that you do want to short for sure. But I don't like it right here. I do think that this one could easily pop back up to 70 cents. And that's close to like what, a 40% move from where you're at right now? Close to 50% move, actually. So I think you have the right idea. I think it might be a little bit too soon, but I do think you have the right idea. So yeah, like somewhere between 65 cents to 70 cents is where I'd be looking for on this thing to pop up. And that would be extremely shortable in my opinion. But I wouldn't do it right here. That's just too much potential risk. And I'm sure that this thing can like fly around because it's probably extremely, low liquidity and low market cap and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's like, do you want to potentially eat a 40% move to the upside when we do have tangible signals that are kind of pointed in that direction, or at least somewhere around there? I wouldn't just yet. I think it's the right idea, just a little bit too soon. But, good to have on your list, I guess. Anyways, Great Bot Hype is looking at Amazon. Daily, weekly, gotcha. AMZN. Okay. On NAS, yeah, down. And I believe we were looking for a correction on this one earlier this week. And I think that it comes down a little bit more to correct. 245, 240-ish, somewhere around there. It is already reconnected with the monthly 5 EMA. So I do think you're getting close to this bounce. But it really needs to have a strong bounce there. Otherwise, I'm going to potentially call a top at the end of this month, but if it can hold that 245 number by end of month, I would still be bullish on it. But the more I look at this one, it's actually not looking too hot to me. 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence on the monthly RSI, and you're already at the 5 EMA, so it's like next level is 225 to 220. That's going to start to look like the quarterly time frame is failing. So, really high stakes on this one, man. I could understand playing a position right here. If this position fails, I think this thing is actually topping out for a long time, man. But hey, don't count this one out until it actually fails. So give it a chance at like 240. As long as it holds above 240, I think okay. Below 240, not okay. Anyways, Derek Dombrowski's looking at USAR. Okay. USAR. This is rare earths, another big narrative recently. And I like this one right here. You got 1, 2, 3 higher lows. You're already at previous highs. I think it's a formality whether it's going to complete the reversal or not. But if you want to go by the book, then you'd be waiting for a weekly closure above 32.25. My LARP line's still showing the direction here. It might have maybe one more correction first before it tries that breakout move. In fact, likely I would say you got 3 drives of bearish divergence on the daily RSI. So coming down to 26 bucks is very likely in my opinion, and maybe even as far down as 23.5. But still long term the setup is there. I don't have any major issues with this. The monthly is objectively bullish to me. I think that this one is going to take its time. So, again, probably another summer mover. Like when I say summer, I mean Q3 basically. And then also ENTG. Sure. Yeah, we can do ENTG. This is one that I actually do hold, kind of around where it's at right now. I still like this. I'm still looking at that 120 low as the low. I have no reason to get bearish on this thing or flip around my opinion until it actually goes and closes below 120 now, as that is the new pivot. And the quarterly time frame, it's the same setup that I really liked before. It's hidden bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3 drives. You're already at the previous highs. You got a nice higher low right here. These are all the things that I like to see before a mega macro breakout. So short term, might correct a little bit more. Most of this market is. This one actually still looking okay, to be fair. But it's the higher term time frames that I really love here. So if you're on the daily, might come down a little bit more again. But I really don't have anything to say that's really bad about this thing as long as you're above basically last month's low. So yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to an enigma. And oh my God, there are so many fucking super chats today. That's crazy. HYLN. We are a traditional market trading crew at this moment, and have been for quite some time. What the fuck is this thing? I'm guessing they had some sort of an announcement or something like that. This is a move that only an insider can get. To be fair, there were a couple higher lows right here, and it did reclaim that previous high, so it has met my criteria for a reversal. Short-term daily. Do we have bearish divergence? Yeah, a little bit of bearish divergence developing. So at some point, probably correction down to like 5.25, but probably a higher low there, man. Yeah, 5.25 to $5 even is where I'd be looking for on a correction. Should bounce around there. I think it's kind of done probably moving for now to the upside, and it's going to have any further upside. It's going to be a summer thing, but you're looking for like a very long-term hold. Yeah. I think it's okay to hold this thing as long as you're above that. What was it? $5 number? Sorry, $4.50 would be like the real line in the sand for the long term. If you really are long term, most people say they're long term, but they're not. But that would be like the line in the sand for the long term. Short term, I do think you pop back down, but yeah, definitely not my favorite chart. I wouldn't personally want to hold this, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna. It won't potentially explode towards $20. It's possible. I personally don't like to play charts like this. Anyways, let's see. Palaran 2K says VVV daily. I'm guessing you mean the crypto shitcoin, but it's actually not really shitcoin because it's the only thing that continues to go up like in a crazy fashion. Look, it's the yellow brick trend, man. Higher low after higher low after higher low. 1, 2, 3 drives of hidden bullish divergence on yet again another higher low. It's already made new highs. I can't be bearish on this thing, man. At least not yet. Do I think that this is going to enter into parabolic blow off top territory? Yeah, and it's already kind of there, to be fair. But some new highs to go first. Most likely, of which we come up with some areas of interest here. But again, I want to restate that I do think that this thing is very close to like a major top, like a major top. Does it get up to $24 first? Probably. $27. That's where I start to get a little bit iffy on it, and anywhere around 30, I think that this thing's going to be a major sell personally. But yeah. Anyways, MG says AVGO. Okay, and also this one I would flip around to being bearish if it goes back down below $15. It's not very helpful, even below 16.25, or sorry, $17, below $17. That'd be pretty bad as well, at least for the short term momentum. AVGO for MG. Excuse me. I farted from my mouth. Anyways, this thing, again, good chart. Still think that you're heading up towards 500 plus, probably like 530. Monthly continuation. It's just hidden bullish divergence on another higher low. Look, man, I don't hate this at all. Quarterly time frame, bullish engulfing on another drive of hidden bullish divergence as well, pending this month's closure. So yeah, probably make some new highs in summer as well. I am just overall bullish on this thing as long as you hold above about 420 on the long term, if you are long term. Earnings are later, so you're going to get some earnings bullshit. You're going to see some spiky behavior on both sides. Your real market won't begin until like Friday or next week, or Monday of next week. I mean, this thing could easily correct down to 440 or 450, still be a higher low, and then continue on. I'd still be favoring the upside overall until we get in a little bit deeper into summer. yeah, it's getting close to the next major high, but I don't think it's there just yet. What's up, Tino? It's good to see you, man. And Yarbrook. Sailor said that he will sell small amounts of coins to cover dividends. Yeah, I think, I think that's just kind of like common knowledge, or, where else are they going to get the money from? Take out more loans, take a loan to pay your loans. It's starting to sound a little bit like a scheme, I've heard. Anyways, Andrew Plus looking at symbol BRUN. Sounds familiar, but I don't know. Oh my God, what the fuck? I don't have an opinion on this chart other than the obvious. It's too new and something weird's going on here. It's packaged software, so yeah, it's in the software sector. Look, it's probably gonna go up more, but this is not my game here. The only thing that I can really do on this that I think is of value is to tell you where the invalidation levels are for the short-term bullishness, and that would be below about $33.50. Until then, I actually do think that this thing will make some new highs here, but these sort of rallies can top as fast as they fucking, went up. So it's like, yeah, I think you got some new highs here, but I do think you're probably close to a real high, like a major high. You have all kinds of bearish divergence developing over here, and anywhere below $33.50, I would call basically the high for a long time. Anyways, let's see. We got Andrew Plus says, what do you think about CCJ? I don't know. Haven't looked into it. Because I'm interested in URG, and CCJ is kind of lead dog in uranium. You were kind of bearish on CCJ at 104. Let's see. Might have been a wrong call. Let's see. 104, yeah. Why was I bearish there? I would still be bearish here, honestly. I don't, compared to URG, which is having like a more obvious, upside formation. This one is less obvious to me, and you do see 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence kind of developing right here. So it really needs to continue like in the short term. Now, to be fair, the weekly does have hidden bullish divergence here. So, is that going to be good enough to get it back up to 130? At which point, I would just have to say that I'm just fucking wrong on that thing, and it's going to make new highs and probably enjoy a lot of that rally. But the reason why I like URG over something like this is because if I'm going to play these names, if I'm going to play singular names, I take the stance that, one, I want a more obvious chart, and two, because I'm putting in less amount of money in these as singular stocks compared to my ETF plays, I like to choose the things that have more potential upside. So yeah. Anyways, this thing in and of itself, like, if the top isn't happening here, it's not far off, man. And I think that it is happening here. The higher time frame that I look at, the more and more that I do think that this one has more or less topped. But hey, as long as the weekly remains above this week's low at 109, there is a short-term and medium-term bullish case for some new highs. But again, it absolutely must remain above this week's low, 109. Otherwise not great. And my original idea will be absolutely correct if that happens, with targets down to like $85-$90. And yeah, when I look at the higher term time frames, I do think that that's more likely from here personally. But that's more of a personal opinion. Anyways, one moment. There we go. Oh, man. Super Metroid says, man, I live in Alaska. Mention how long it takes to drive just half of this day. I honestly have no conception of Alaska, to be just super blunt with you, man. It's like, does it even exist? Actually, I have met a person from Alaska before. They were pretty cool. Daryl K says CEC BTC. Sure. At least we're looking at some Bitcoin parents. And you are saying if the monthly can close above 55 EMA, possible next targets. Okay, I will tell you what my next targets would be, but I do want to go on the record first as saying I do not think that this will happen. I think that this is probably going to be the high right here for this pairing. In fact, I feel very strongly about that. Quarterly is the only thing that could invalidate me, but yeah, for right now. Anyways, if it reclaims the 55 EMA, where would I be looking at next? I'd be looking at about somewhere in this region right here. Yeah. Oh, I guess I had this marked off before. Nice. Every once in a while, that TA bullshit works, huh? Somewhere in between these two horizontal lines. If it was going to have another leg up. My personal opinion is that it will not. I think that it's probably more likely to top out where it's at exactly right now. Put this on logs for a moment. But hey, if I'm wrong, I'll be disastrously wrong. It's going to go up a lot more if I'm wrong. So Yeah. But I'm always going to look at the first test into the 55 EMA as extremely likely to reject on any major downtrend. So yeah, it's right there. I mean, shit. I would not be betting on that happening. I'm not saying that I don't. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really care if it happens or doesn't. It doesn't really matter to me. But yeah. Anyways, Andrew Plus says daily and weekly on XFAB. Sure. This is, what is this? Silicone Foundries. Trades on Paris, so it's probably amazing. You know that the Europeans are so fucking, growth oriented and have amazing technology. Incredible. Is trying a breakout move here, but must finish the monthly above what's called 1162. Until then, you do have some toppy signals on the weekly starting to begin, but they're not quite actionable just yet. Maybe the daily will have it. Probably tries higher from here. Probably will break out. Actually, is what the daily says. Yeah, I'd be betting on this one going more to the upside. Probably retesting that high from last month and maybe making some new highs along the way. We can also come up with some areas of interest on this one, assuming it does continue here. So yeah, 1634. You've already got there. You've already sold off from it. For the next time you get up there, maybe a shallow pullback, but ultimately I don't think that you really stop until you get to like 19 and a quarter. From there, things get a little more fuzzy, maybe like 23, 24 bucks. But I think that you probably at least get to like 19 and a quarter if you do complete the breakout. And it is kind of looking likely that the weekly will pull through here. Where would I invalidate the statement and get immediately bearish? And that would just be anywhere below Monday's low, which is 945. So yeah, in a strong position there, but must absolutely complete above there. Otherwise it's going to be bad. Anyways, sir over bro all day. Fuck yeah, squad juiced. Fuck yeah, sir. Just crushed a job interview. Nice, sir. Congratulations. Steve Briscoe says lunar, weekly, monthly. Yeah, this is another one that I've owned for a while. So full disclosure, I do own this one. I did sell some at $42 as previously explained. And I do think that is going to come down a little bit more here, but I'm actually not bearish on this one just yet. I do think you're going to get a reconnect with the $30-ish number, anywhere where that red 5 EMA is on the monthly. So I'd create a zone between about 32 and 30, or yeah, about 30. I mean, technically it's going to go down a little more here as price comes down, but is there bearish divergence possible here? No. Yeah, I would still go to the chance to reconnect and then bounce by end of month. The only way that I get really bearish on this one is with a weekly closure below about $31. Now, like I said, I've already taken a little bit of profits on this one, but I still hold a core position. So I will be managing it in that way. Yeah, I don't have a major issue with the higher term timeframes here. So yeah, my rules ain't broken just yet. So I'm still holding it. At least that core position. Cool. Corked 87 says GM boss, GM corked, FTNT, Frank Thomas, Nancy Thomas. I remember this one, but it's probably a different name compared to what I remember. No, it could be the same one. Yeah, this one's been around for a long time. Yeah, definitely like the monthly closure here. Like most things, I think you kind of have to be a little bit on guard for June being a pullback month, but it is overall bullish. And while there is bearish divergence to developing on the daily, I think that whatever pullback you get here is just going to be another higher low. Worst case scenario for a pullback is going to be about 118 to 120-ish region. I'm not saying you absolutely must pull back there, but that's just like, if it goes any further than that, I would not be bullish, basically. Until then, I'll just be bullish on this thing, man. Even the short term, yeah, you're getting some signals there, but they're not really actionable just yet. If I had to call it just based off the rest of the market, I do think that it will pull back. Just I don't think it's going to reverse any of the critical numbers. And the quarterly is a tell right here, man. 1, 2, 3 drives of hidden bullish divergence. You've already made new highs. This thing's very likely to make new highs in summer in Q3. So if you do get a short-term pullback, I'm just looking for higher lows there, man. All good, man. All good. Oh, yes. Oh, man. Desperately needed that water. Guys, we looked at URG a few times already. Cool. All right. Andrew Plus says SMCI. And then actually there's a really good question from Chris Dona that I'll get to as well. SMCI, super microcomputer, great name, and chart's okay, I guess. Not like the biggest winning chart of all time, but not necessarily bad. I do think, similar to most things we've seen today, short term is a pullback here, probably back down to 40.5 bucks at least. But as long as you remain above about $36, I'd be having a bullish bias here. To be fair, there's not a higher low on price just yet, so perhaps I could be very wrong. Look, short-term, medium-term, pullback extremely likely, like extremely likely. Let's just call it 39, 40 bucks. If you see this thing start to really close below $37, I would turn to full bear mode because you still literally just have lower lows and lower highs. In fact, that actually really should be my read right here. I need to reverse this whole analysis. I think it's topping out right here. It will be validated below about 36 bucks. But for right now, I think you're going to test some downside, and then you got to hold your breath around that $37 number if it gets there. Anyways, Chris Donut says, can you speak on funding rates for a minute and how you factor them into confluence or showing signs of direction, please? Yeah, so funding rates are very misunderstood, and I find that they can be valuable in very specific situations. So when you have a clear trend, so right now Bitcoin's trend on every time frame that matters is down. When you have a very clear trend that is to the downside and you see funding rates that are opposite of that are positive, like you see right here, that is going to be a confluential look that is going to make more downside more likely. I do not subscribe to the belief that that just because funding rates are negative, price must go up, or just because funding rates are positive, price must go down. It must be interpreted within the context of the trend. So for an uptrend, if you have an uptrend and funding rates are negative, then you have a very strong backdrop for further upside. But those are the only two situations where I have personally found a very repeatable and very reliable and a very strong signal, I guess. But other than that, I don't really care about them, actually. Don't think that they mean all that much, or at least it's not that they don't mean all that much. Like, they obviously mean something, but it doesn't really help in like a strong enough fashion to form an analysis. Anyways, we'll go to Great White Hype next. He's looking at FEIM. I'm surprised I'm getting through this stream, man. I got like the worst night's sleep of probably the last year last night. Anyways, this thing, again, probably short-term pullback here, but it could get a little bit nasty. Just must hold above last week's low. Last week's low is what exactly? It is 66.73. It has hit the 1618 Fibonacci extension target, which I believe we had from, we charted this one out like back here in April. I would still be treating this one as bullish, especially as long as you're above that number. I do think you probably pull back a little bit more in the short term. Wouldn't be asked for too much to even test that number at 66.73, but as long as you're above there on a weekly closing basis, I'd be favoring further upside closer to $84, $85, with potential for more too. But at least that, as long as that condition is met. Royal British Musketeer says, please look at NBIS day and week. Sure, NBIS. Nebius Group. Monthly looking a little bit toppy there. What about a weekly? Weekly looking a little bit toppy there. I do think you are in the process of playing out a nice correction here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 drives of bearish divergence on characteristics RSI. I think this move does bring you down to like 215, 217-ish region, and it might be this might be a macro top here. Very possible. This has been an incredible run. So yeah. This might be it, but at least short-term, medium-term downside. I'd want to come back to it at the end of this month. If it finishes at the month below like 220, I'd be pretty bearish on it, and I would call a macro high. But until then, I think that you're coming down to test that number somewhere around there at least. Daily, like at least about 220 or so, and below there, this will start to look like a major macro high. Quarterly still okay, so. Yeah, I'd still really wait till the end of this month, but you can see that there are some cracks in this thing that can promote a much deeper pullback if violated. Oh, man. Okay. When's the last time you connected with Jason Piscino? It'd be great to have him back on again. I talk with Jason like pretty often, man. Like we're just good friends. Like I love the guy. I don't know. I think he's probably like not super interested in YouTube right now. Shit, man. I'm probably one of the only guys still at it. But I genuinely love these things, man. Like, I look forward to these live streams every fucking day. So much so that I was like up at fucking 1 a.m. last night thinking about, oh shit, this is happening. We can talk about this. There's all these cool things. And then what do you know? Next thing, I'm not sleeping. And then I feel like shit. And then I don't even remember half the things that I wanted to speak about. Yeah, bad, man. Very bad. Anyway, Strong Warrior says, Zama, can Zama reach 3.8 cent again? The answer is always it's possible, but it might be very low probability. So let's see. Zama, it's definitely not a shitcoin, right? Okay, you bought at 3.8. It is a shitcoin, but we can't really call it like full on shit just yet because it hasn't failed yet, to be fair. It hasn't had like the long-term dead heartbeat chart. And on the 4-hour time frame, you do kind of have a bullish engulfing going on. Do I think that you'll get back up to your entry? You're basically asking for this thing to make new highs. I don't know. It's too new for me to do any real analysis on. If I had to say so, I actually would. But this is based off of extremely little. I do not feel confident about this. I'm basically basing this off of a very small amount of things on the 4-hour time frame, as there is some very small amount of bullish divergence developing there, which should be good enough to get it back up to like 3.6 maybe. And then from there, continuation move should be a new high. But that's the problem with shitcoins, man. They can dump out of nowhere. They typically pump out of nowhere as well, but they are significantly more likely to dump out of nowhere too, man. I don't think this is not my thing to play, man. Can it happen again? Sure. Would I be betting my life on it? Hell no. Do I think that there's at least some hoping for you? Yes. If I had to call it, I think that you get around your entry. But you're playing with fire on these things, man. Just go to if you want to gamble, go to Vegas. There's hookers there, there's free alcohol, and it's also fun. Don't fucking do it on shitcoins like this, man. This is not going to be a good way to make money long term. Do It Wit says Amazon 4-hour and daily. Is there a level you would buy on this pullback? I don't know. I actually don't own any of the major ones outright. If you're really bullish, then that 248 level would be the one to buy. If you're asking me personally, no, I'm not buying this thing. Not because I don't think that it's good. It's just because I think that the returns are in other names right now. These are the previously strong, very strong names like Amazon, Google, Apple, these sort of things. They have not been strong for a while in comparison to a lot of other sectors in the market. So I just don't care about these right now. But the areas of interest would be kind of where it's currently gotten to at 245, between there and 242. And then if that fails, a much more interesting area, at least to me, would be on like a real correction. On a real correction would be like 180. But if you're asking me personally, no, there is not a level that I want to buy because I don't think that this is going to be the winner going into the end of this year. These major previous winners we refer to as like the generals, and when they start to not lead the market anymore, it's a sign that things are slowing down and the cycle is getting more and more mature, and we can expect a major macro top somewhat soon. Now, when I say somewhat soon in traditional markets, that could be all the way up to like 6 months to a year. And I've been saying like Q4 of this year for a while now, and I still think Q4 of this year. But I guess you got some areas right here. I don't like them. I don't think it's going to work out. You got 4 drives of bearish divergence on the monthly RSI. So personally, I think that this area will fail. And I do think that you will come down to like 220, and that's not going to look too hot. Yeah. But look, I'd be waiting for the monthly to close before making any real decisions here, to be honest with you, man. But yeah, if you're just asking me, the answer would be no. The gains are in other things right now. If you're on a 4-hour daily, okay. If you're on a daily or a 4-hour, I think you come down to like 235-ish region and try a bounce there. 235 to 232 in that pocket, likely try for a bounce there. If you're just on those timeframes, if you're on higher term timeframes, then probably not relevant. AJ Crumb says, can you check out STX? Where can it slow down? Dude, are you talking about the crypto shitcoin or are you talking about a real stock? Maybe you're talking about the real stock. When can it slow down and how far can retrace? When can it slow down? I mean, this one's pretty fucking hot, man. I don't think it has that much more to go to the upside. Look, it depends what time frame you're looking at, how patient you want to be on a pullback, but ultimately like 730 to 750 is where I'd be looking for on a major pullback. This has been a crazy move, by the way. $100 to almost 1,000 in a year. Jesus, man. Yeah, people are still looking at fucking shitcoins, right? Hey, it's all good. Do it. It's all good, man. Cool. Ugh. Sorry. Christona says, thanks so much for taking the time to answer my question. So currently it's a long squeeze. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it would be considered a long squeeze. Yeah. Funding indicates short or long squeeze. Look, you got positive funding here with a downtrend on every time frame that matters. So yes, this would be pressure down. It's putting these longers who are market longing under pressure. So yeah, you could interpret that as a long squeeze if you fall under the disease that where you have to call everything a fucking squeeze. Not everything is a fucking squeeze, by the way. And also, oh my God, okay, just as like a fucking, autistic rant, there are some people who just call everything a fucking squeeze. And I can assure you, not everything is a fucking squeeze. For one, in a bull market, you cannot squeeze longs. In a bear market, you cannot squeeze shorts. There is no short squeeze. It's impossible. In a downtrend, you cannot squeeze shorts. It's literally the definition of a fucking trend. To the upside, vice versa. Is Lunar a buy here? That depends on your risk tolerance. I think it could easily fail, to be honest with you, but we went over it about like 5-10 minutes ago. If you want to go over like a full analysis, Hostas says squeeze maxing. We are squeeze maxing. Also looks maxing, and I'm bone maxing as well. I've heard about this one. He's still active. I watch Casino daily and then Krown daily. Fuck yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, cool. I didn't know that he's actually daily. Like we talk all the time, but we don't really talk too much about markets anymore. It's just like, it's just not even that interesting for us, I guess. Thoughts on Circle, short, medium term for $84 buys. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be taking, or I shouldn't say definitely, but extremely likely going to be taking a loss here on Circle. Where is my Circle? My Circle derp. I think last I saw it was like well under 100. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yesterday hit my stop. Okay. Close below the 200 simple. Yep. We're out. So now with the way that things are shaping up, you do have hidden bearish divergence on this high. So that this whole area as potentially a reversal area is no longer that, I suppose. Look, if you want to play a position at $84, there is a setup there to be had, and you're almost undoubtedly going to get a bounce around there. But is it going to be reversal back into an uptrend? It's looking less likely to me, but hey, you have a very obvious invalidation point, which is just that $84 low on a weekly closing basis. As long as you're above there, sure, hold on to the position, man. That's an easy position to play. You don't have to risk all that much. But when I look at the monthly, I have to say, man, unless if this thing really salvaged itself before end of month back above about 110, I will turn. I still want to own it long term, but I will be not only capitulate. I mean, I've already capitulated, but I will be looking much lower, probably new lows, or at least around that $60 low if that would have happened. Alan Calderon is looking at VCYT, Verisight, cool name, and also decent chart. I think this one's going to be going up, probably back to like $53 to $55. Clear and obvious reversal here. 1, 2, 3 higher lows, higher highs along the way. Beautiful on the monthly. I like that. It's probably one of the more healthy charts that's leading into a breakout that we have seen today. Maybe even the most. Yeah. I don't know. You didn't give me any time frames to go off of, but I like it. I'm bullish on this thing, especially as long as you're above $40. I think generally you're gonna break out and lead towards a rally, in summer. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing like 60, 70, maybe $80. I mean, this thing has, this is what a good setup looks like. This one's been baking for a while. Even the quarterly has higher lows now. I think that this one's very mature now. Oh, very nice. Cool. My poor beloved Walmart. What's going on with Walmart? Let's check it out. I think symbol is WMT. Walmart coin. Probably actually going to bounce right here, man. You're going to have hidden bullish divergence, and you're coming off the 55 EMA. I think you're in for a bounce literally where you're at right now. Please look at XLM. I mean, I can't promise you I'm going to have anything nice to say about it. Interesting. It actually had a nice rally last week, but that is precisely where I'd expect the rally to fail. I think it's coming down from here, man. This is not good. You have a downtrend. Even during bull markets, it's a downtrend. High, low, lower high, lower low. Probably another lower high right there, man. I see high volatility. RSI spiked up even above what you saw back in September of last year. It's probably your next high right there, man. I think it's down only from here, or at least back down to your base. And in the short term, at least down to like 19.5 to 20 cents. So yeah, don't like it, man. Yeah. I guess at least on the macro, it kind of holds these higher lows here. So that's, you know, not that bad, I guess. You know, compared to most of these shitcoins, at least better than those. But yeah, man, I don't know. Unless you got some inside information on this one, I just hate shit like this, man. Like, look, if you've been holding this thing for the past 10 years, you haven't made anything. Sideways as fuck during multiple bull marks. Just pathetic. Yeah, if I had to call it, I'd just call it failure here. And if it does, by some act of God, if it were to have another move to the upside, I'd be looking at 35 cents. But I think that's significantly less likely than just coming down from here. Yeah. Is there an Aldi's chart? I don't know, but I don't really like Aldi's, to be honest. Is Twitter freaking out yet from the coins dropping? I actually couldn't tell you because because I actually have probably 98% of crypto Twitter muted. Like even my friends, I don't know why I do know why I do it. It's just, I don't want anyone else's opinion, not because I don't think other people have value to say, but I don't want to be influenced by other people. Daryl P says garbage coin, don't own that shit. I mean, it's just a long-term loser. Like that's the problem with it. When you think in terms of opportunity cost, for the past 10 years, there have been so many opportunities to have amazing gains. What did this thing do? It went sideways, basically. Sideways while inflation continues to creep up and up and up and up and up and up some more. So you're actually losing not just the dollar value, you're losing inflation, and then you're also losing the opportunity cost of being able to get into something that actually fucking moves. So yeah, man, this sort of stuff, I think it's just a massive distraction. Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's see what else we got over here. Yeah. I actually really do like and enjoy going on Twitter. I mostly just follow like philosophical stuff, and then for whatever reason I've gotten so many of these fucking political posts recently. But I do have to say, man, I'm starting to fall into the trap myself, I think. Rick to Riches says thoughts on Ben Cowan calling to 40,000 Bitcoin in October. Again, okay, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole right now. I have respect for anyone who's been in this game for a long time, which he has. And at the very least, you know, he's been one of the more prominent voices awareing people that shitcoins are shit. I think that's valuable. I think that's good. I like that. Has he been accurate in previous bottom calls? Most of these guys have not been. You know, it's like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's hard to get the macro lows. Do I think it's going to go to 40,000? It's possible, sure. But it's not my first target, man. It's not my first target. Would I be calling that in October? Again, not my first target. I think worst case scenario, still low 50s and then bounce up, you know, aggressively. If that fails for whatever reason, I would actually be getting much bearish than I think what the crowd is doing at 40,000. As I would be looking at probably 30, 35. But you know, we're very far away from these sort of things. So it's kind of not wise to pontificate on such things because it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a long process. And I suspect that if Bitcoin even does get, you know, decently into that $50,000 territory, it's going to spend a lot of time there. Why? Because that's exactly what happened in 2024. And that was also the high of 2021 as well. So previous sort of long consolidations typically beget more sort of consolidations in those regions. So yeah. Anyways, again, a lot of respect for him. I'm just saying that not in any like derogatory fashion. Just, you know, it's hard to get macro lows, man. Like almost no one fucking calls it right. We'll go to the doctor and see if I have a short squeeze disease. Thank you, sir. All good. Yeah. I don't think it's you. I think that a lot of other YouTubers are really obsessed with that word for whatever reason. Liam O'Brien says, hey, Krown, what's up, man? TSM, Daily Weekly. Sure. Taiwan Semiconductor. Yeah, really aggressive move here. I don't think it has that much more to go to the upside. It's probably not topped out yet. I think there probably are some new highs in summer, like in Q3, but it's very, very, very close. This thing is like in fucking la la land at the moment. But on this move, I kind of do expect at some point 467 to get hit. And then if things get really crazy, about 506 to 516 region is where I'd be looking for. You are in, twilight zone here, just going to the moon and beyond. So it's possible that those, all those get hit. But I would say generally, this is not something that I want to get into just because I think you're very late to this rally. It's very, very, very mature. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a correction to $400 in I don't know, maybe like end of summer, something like that. And then I think you probably get a major top around end of year, if not sooner. So it's like, yeah, this is good. This is all strong. But if you're thinking in terms of this rally starting in April of last year, you're definitely more than 80% through the rally and probably closer through 90% of the rally. So kind of, in my opinion, you're kind of like trying to catch the tail end of this mega fucking massive run. Even though it's likely to make new highs here, man. It's good. But yeah, going back to the question about thoughts on Ben Cowan, it's not even thoughts on Ben Cowan. It's thoughts on pretty much all analysts, on social media. Just a lot of people talking about $40,000, $50,000, and I don't know when these that old saying of the crowd is typically wrong. I mean, that really has been one of the most true things in trading that I've found. Just is what it is, I guess. Anyways, Cork says RE, one more please. Is that the ticker or no? It's Alloy, ALOY. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, good. Weekly multiple drive hidden bullish divergence. You're back around that previous range high at 1375. Just need to see a closure above there, and I think this thing can go on a pretty nice run towards $20. I'd only get bearish on this thing if it comes back down below today's low, and at that point I'd get immediately bearish. But I think that this one's probably ready to move sooner rather than later. Yeah, monthly trying for a higher low right there. So this could be the real flip, to be fair. Actual potential there. Even the quarterly 5 and 21 EMA might cross at the end of this month. So if that happens, I think you're in for a big rally. Yeah, and super easy position to manage as well. Today's low is an invalidation point. So yeah, pretty simple. Pretty simple one. Zig one other zag. Krown, you called the macro low for Bitcoin in 2022 for nearly a year. You were estimating Bitcoin bottom 16 to 18. Your opinion gave me. Look, I appreciate that, man. But I appreciate that. Yeah. Just every once in a while that TA bullshit works, man. 2018, I did not call the low well. I mean, I did call the major breakdown well, but near the lows, I was still looking for lower. Not that much lower, but yeah, still lower. So it's always more so like a zone, and then we have to let those things really evolve. So when Bitcoin puts in its macro low, it's going to be like 3-4 months of boring ass sideways as fuck. It's exactly how it bottomed out over here in 2022. It's exactly how it bottomed out in 2018, 2019, exactly more so in 2015, and then even again over here in 2011, 2012. It's been, in some cases, like almost a year going sideways in an extremely tight range, a range that we wouldn't even be able to conceive of at this point. I remember even in 2019, it was moving within like $100 daily range, $100 on a $3,000 number. Like, it's boring as shit. Anyways, have you already done SMR? Sure. I haven't. Can't say that I've ever even seen it. Don't like it, man. In a sea of good charts today, this is absolutely not it. Potential for reversal off the higher low. I'm guessing that's what you're going off of, but it's not confirmed until you're back up above 1422. And I'd really not give this one the benefit of the doubt just because of the long-term history. Yeah, certainly not obvious. And if anything, I'm kind of looking for it to go down from here, but I don't like it, man. Again, when it comes to long-term investing, especially in traditional markets, you have so many options for amazing charts. This is not it. This, I think, is a lot more likely to come back down to your $3 low than it is to go back up to your $30 high or $40 high for that matter. Yeah. How far back was NNE? I don't think we looked at it, so we can look at it really quickly. NNE, nice, nano nuclear. Probably a part of the No, it says electrical products. I was going to assume it's like a nuclear name, but anyways, I think you're probably putting in a lower high right there. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have hidden bearish divergence between this high, and this high, going back to January of this year. And you're on the 55 EMA on low volatility. I would be looking for this thing to come down from here. Not a winner in my opinion, or at least not obvious to me. What would my invalidation be? What would make me instant bullish? Back above 30, 35 on a weekly closing basis. Until then, definitely not my favorite from today, that's for sure. Nova Sparks says, just to humor that idea, are there any fibs down there, or is that just past cycle highs? I'm guessing you're talking about the $50,000 number. I mean, that would be your previous cycle high, and also the 2024 like year-long correction almost. But if we were to do a Fibonacci retracement, let's see. Yeah, you got the 618 at about 57,800 or so. But to be fair, oh no, these fibs actually have held up decently. The 382 was about the high of Bitcoin's last rally. The 50% retracement level has not been working recently that well. It might be a little bit too early to judge it, to be fair, but yeah, on the way down didn't really matter. Yeah, well, I guess it got this high over here. Yeah, ever since then, though, it hasn't really mattered. Yeah, I would have to say that has failed. Yeah, the 618 kind of comes in around there. Yeah, fair enough. Anyways, Liam O'Brien says, thanks, man. Lily Daily Weekly, fat loss jabs. Oh, fat loss jabs. It's like fat people are losing their jabs. Their jobs, their gerbs. I am not sure here. If I had to be, I'd probably be bullish. Hidden bullish evidence, another higher low. Yeah, I'd be bullish on this thing monthly as long as you're above 1,040. Daily time frame looks like a higher low developing right now. Weekly could easily come back down to like 1,000 and base there, but you know, looking at the monthly, I'm inclined to say that if it's going to be bullish, it probably goes sideways and up from here. So you have a pretty easy invalidation, which just more or less this month's low. Yeah, I did say a little bit lower earlier, but I think as soon as you go back down below this month's low, it's probably not good. So that would probably be enough for me. Easy position to play. Quarterly, I think, is also quite good here as well. Potential for a bullish engulfing if it finishes above 1133 by end of June. That would make me certainly bullish for new highs in summer. All right, let's see. I'll read through a few more of these, but I think we're kind of at the end of this, man. My voice, my brain are all cashed out at the moment. Let's see. Riven taking out the previous lower high and weekly wick. If it closed above previous lower high, weekly pivot and reversal pending. Let's look at it really quickly. Then we'll get to Super Mars, and then we'll call it a day. Is it? Oh, hey, yeah, that actually is a pretty good move right there. I don't see a higher low, but this would be significant getting back above, what was this high right here? That was 1807, which it is above right now, and it is on hidden bullish evidence. You might have an early reversal on your hand, in which case I would be targeting back up the highs from December of last year at around $22. It's not bad. Super Mars looking at Microsoft, and yeah, I'm flipping around on this one, assuming that weekly holds. Previously I was bearish. Well, it has been bearish, to be fair, for the past like 6 months, so don't really feel too bad about that one, honestly. Anyways, this one over here, I do think you got to swing high right here. I think it is coming back down to that 385, 386 number. It might even come all the way back down to like 380 low, but I would be expecting another bounce attempt around there. Yeah, I'm not necessarily bearish on this one just yet. It's probably one of the stronger of the major names, but the gains are not with these guys right now. They're just not. So if I have to call this thing, I think short-term, medium-term downside. I think it's short-term, medium-term downside, but at the same time, I think this could turn into a real reversal if and only if you do take out that 358 low or 356 low. Until then, I think it's a range play, short-term down, and still should hold a long-term bullish bias for what it's worth. But a lot of these things are topping out, and there is some bearish divergence there. You've already played out a pretty good downside move, so I think it's fair to say that that's already played out. But yeah, man, anyways, I got to get off this because my voice is actually starting to fail me. So Look, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you on this nice Wednesday morning as always, man. I really look forward to these live streams. They're fucking beautiful. I love it. I fucking love it, love it, love it. I love all of you. And we shall reconvene at a later date. Until then,